Well, good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt. I'm your host here again on the Sedona Connection. Thank you for everybody that's joining us on this fine evening. It's 7 o'clock here in my home in Sedona, Arizona. That means it's 6 p.m. on the West Coast and 9 p.m. on the East Coast, or wherever you may be in this fine and wonderful world. Because I've got one person there on Facebook, Richard, who is coming in from New Zealand, where it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Well, now, normally I say it's 6 p.m. in Mara home, but now in Sedona it's 7 p.m. Well, what does that mean? So, last week, remember, we set our clocks back here in the United States, but Arizona and Hawaii are the only two states that do not move their clocks. So, when the rest of the country, I should say the mainland country, 48 states, when they all move their clocks, in Arizona we don't move our clocks. We have to shift our time zones. So in the wintertime, from November up until March, we are in mountain time zone. And then when the clocks change again in March, then we will move back to Pacific time zone. Well, why did they do that here in Arizona? Well, it's the heat predominantly. Remember, Arizona is the hot spot of the lower 48 here. When you get into southern Arizona, from Phoenix down south into Tucson and Yuma, it gets really, really hot in the summertime. And so they want the sun setting sooner, I should say. So by being a Pacific time zone, it gets light sooner, and then it gets dark sooner. So that way they can get the sun setting, and it can start cooling down a little more for people before they go to bed. So it's basically, it makes it a little bit cooler in the evening. And so that's predominantly the reason why here in Arizona we don't change our clocks, but we change our time zones. But enough for that. So all of that stuff. So here we are. This is the November 6th program, the day after the elections in the United States, and Donald J. Trump is going to be the new president of the United States. So what a drama that has been for the last couple months. And it was really interesting. Last night, I was watching all the commentators on Fox News. Now, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he's one of the more senior ones. And he basically said last night, what we have witnessed tonight is the irrelevance of mainstream media. Because he came right out and said there was no questions that the media was very, very favorable toward Kamala Harris, and all the things that they were saying and everything that was going on. And basically what we saw is that mainstream media is no longer having hardly any impact on how people make their decisions to vote. Because what's happening now, we all thought, everybody was saying, the media was saying, the pollsters were saying this was going to be a very, very close race. Yes, it was close in those 7, what I call, swing states. But at the end of the day, this is turning out to be an electoral college landslide for Donald Trump. A landslide in the electoral college. What we saw is that consistently people started waking up, and they started realizing what was going on, and they started seeing the truth. But all the stuff I've been reading all day long, what it said, basically the bottom line is why people ended up voting for Trump was the economy. When they started doing the polling and they started asking the question, are you better off financially today than you were 4 years ago? 80% answered no. They recognized the big difference of how Trump handled the economy versus how the Biden and Harris administration handled the economy. And that was it at the end of the day. Now, personally, I'm not here to make any judgments about how you voted. People have different reasons for how they vote and why they vote and what they feel and how they see the world. I think personally, you've heard, of course, I was a big Trump supporter over Harris any day. And the primary reason why was because, see, I understand, and I teach this in my workshops, that we live in this world where there's two different worlds that are out there. We have our conventional world. That's the world that is presented to us by the media, by the news, our education systems, our entertainment industry, etc., and etc. It's what is presented to us through the means about how we receive our information, whether it's TV, radio, the internet, or however we receive it. It comes through and it presents to us the conventional world. But there's a second world out there, and that world is the shadow world. It's the world that goes on in the shadows where the real power and control mechanisms take place, and that stuff isn't talked about by the conventional media, the shadow world. Now, the shadow world doesn't necessarily mean that it's all shadows and darkness and only darkness happens there. There's a lot of good white hats in the shadow world as well. And what we do in this currency exchange is one of those examples. What I mean by the shadow world is it's the issues and the operations that happen in the shadows where they can't be seen unless you are actively involved with them or aware of what is going on there. And this currency exchange that we're all involved in is a shadow world operation. And it comes out of this organization called the Dragon Families. And who, you go back 10 years, who ever heard about the Dragon Families and all the gold that they have? I'm someone that is allowed by them, by the Dragon Families, to talk about this on my radio programs and in my workshops. So the reason I'm saying that is because, yes, there are some very, very dark operatives, black hats, that operate in the shadow world. And my personal opinion, based on information that I have, some very credible sources, the reason I was supporting Trump is because Kamala Harris is a black hat operative. Bottom line, she is totally controlled by the black hat world. Now, I read this recently on the internet, and I'm going to make this statement. I haven't been able to verify it, but it's about her parents. All of a sudden, I'm going blank on the operation. There was a CIA operation that was all about mind control and the process of mind control. Man, all of a sudden, I'm going blank on what the name was there, okay? And this was a quiet operation where they were learning how to control people's thoughts in their minds. Projects, I'm going blank. It'll come to me here in just a minute. So what I had seen in a posting is that Kamala Harris's mother was, MK Ultra. Thank you, Rich and Bob. MK Ultra was this mind control program that was operated out there by the CIA. And what I saw in a posting was that Kamala Harris's mother was involved in the development of MK Ultra. So here you've got her mother, who is one of the operatives supposedly around MK Ultra, helping to understand how to mind control people. Then you had her father, who was a professor at Stanford University, but he was a professor teaching communism, and he was an avowed practicing communist as much as possible. So now you got a father that's a communist and a mother that's involved in MK Ultra. And see, personally, I think Kamala Harris has always been an operative who they basically controlled from the time that she was a little girl, brought her all the way through the process and propping her up to be where she was so that they could use her as the president to control their black hat operations. Folks, when it comes to American politics, we have, 535 members of Congress between the House and the Senate. You know, the vast majority of them are just good, normal, everyday people who are trying to do a good job. But it's the controllers, the ones that control the operations, that are the ones that are really the powerful ones. And there's 5 people between the House and the Senate that really run and control the operations. Why? Because they have kind of a quasi-veto power over anything that comes before them. Congress does a really good job of talking, but they don't get a lot done. And the reason is, to get anything done, it has to be introduced, in the form of a bill which has to be passed through Congress in both the House and the Senate and then signed by the president to put it into law. Because until you've done that or put it into the budget when the budget is passed, you haven't really done hardly anything. All you've done is just been an empty talker. There are 5 people in Congress that have quasi-veto power. There's 3 in the House and 2 in the Senate. Veto power over what gets to come up to be voted on. In the House, number 1 is the Speaker of the House. If the Speaker says, we're not hearing that bill, we're not voting on that bill, you're not going to get to vote on it. The second person is the House Majority Leader. Now, that person chairs what is called the Rules Committee, which votes on what bills are going to come to the floor for a House. So he says, these are the bills that we're voting on that we're bringing for the, to the floor for a vote. And then the third person is the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, because almost anything that's going to be of any significance is going to require some funding and some money behind it. And the Appropriations Committee chairs, we're not putting that into the budget bill. We're not putting that into the budget, and we're not going to pay for that. So you see, those 3 can have kind of a quasi-veto power over anything that comes through the House. Now when you go over to the Senate, you have the Senate Majority Leader. And there, that person operates as both the Speaker and the Majority Leader in the House. That Senate Majority Leader has veto power over any of the bills that are basically going to be voted on. And then you have the Finance Chairman that acts like the Appropriation Chairman. So you see, those 5 can put a complete stop to anything that's coming from the other 530 members. And there's only so many times that you as an individual member can basically go to the Speaker. If you're a House member, go to the Speaker and says, you're voting on this bill. If not, I'm going to do this, blah, 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 and try to persuade him through some form of a blackmail or something. Well, you only get to do that a couple of times, and then they will set you aside, and all you will be is a seat filler for the rest of your career as long as you are in Congress. They will never allow anything of significance to come through you. So those 5 have the real power and control over what goes on in the Congress of the United States. And who are those 5 controlled by? The black hat money. It's the money. Because you see, it's amazing when you're in Congress, when you're not actually sitting in committees or doing busy work, all the rest of your time is spent raising money. You have the pressure to raise money, and raise money for your campaigns to get reelected. And so the money, the powerful money, is what has the real power and control behind what gets done. And it's the black hat money that really controls what goes on in Congress in the United States. One of the questions a lot of people ask is that why do you always see all the Republicans voting together and all the Democrats voting together on a bill? It's a team sport. When you've got 535 members of Congress, no one person by themselves can get anything done. Now, some have more influence than others, yes. But what you do, you have to play a game of cooperation. When somebody comes up with a bill and says, this is very important to me, and the leadership says this is an important bill, you need to go along with that if you want your important bill to get the support as well. Because remember, you need the support from the Speaker, and you need the support from the House Majority Leader, and you need the support from the committee chair. Because if you don't have those support, your stuff goes nowhere. Nowhere. So what they do, they make decisions together. And if you notice, everything that, I should say 98% of what comes to the floor for a vote passes. Because you see, they decide in advance, do we have the votes to get this bill passed? And if they don't have the votes, then it never comes up for a hearing, or it never gets out of the Rules Committee, and it never gets considered. They only bring the bills up. If a bill fails on the floor of the House, it's an intended fail to send a message. But if you notice, 95 to 98% of all the bills presented in the House of Representatives pass because the majority party has the votes to pass them. So they operate as a team. Now, the minority party also operates as a team to send a message. It's a message of cooperation. So you don't really get to do stuff totally by yourself because you have to be a team player to get anything done. And that's the reason why we always see all the Democrats voting together the same way, all the Republicans voting together the same way, because it's a team sport when it comes to politics of the United States. So, at the end of the day, then, though, you still have to have the cooperation of the president. Because remember, to get a bill signed or passed into law, or to get a budgetary item funded, it has to pass the House, the Senate, and then signed by the president without the presidential veto. And this is where you get the conflict that happens when you've got, the House and the Senate possibly of two different parties and the president of a different party. Now, it's rare to see what we're going to have now. The president is a Republican. The Senate is now going to have a solid Republican majority. And they don't know yet, but it's looking very strongly that the House is also going to have a Republican majority. It's going to be a very slim majority for them, but they're going to have it as well. It's rare to have all three of the same party. Now, we go back decades ago, it was common when the Democrats had that, but now it's very rare for the Republicans to get it. And they are saying this is going to be the first time since 1980, when Reagan was elected, that you're going to have the Republicans holding all three, the majority in the House and the Senate and the presidential office. What does this mean? By the Senate having a solid majority, it means that President Trump is going to be able to have the cabinet members that he wants to get stuff done, because remember, it's the Senate that approves his cabinet members. That's a really important issue, because I remember watching a video maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and they were talking to President Trump, and they said, when you said you were going to come in your first term, you said that you were going to drain the swamp of this political swamp here in Washington, D.C., and you were going to drain the swamp. And he said, yes, I wanted to do that, except there was a problem that I ran into. I had absolutely no idea who I could trust, because this place is filled with very powerful, influential, career people who have been here for decades. And if I remembered right, he said, just in the White House alone, I've got close to 160 people on staff here, and I don't know a single one of them. I don't know who really I can trust here. Who can I confidentially trust in that they won't work behind my back? Because you see, these professional staff people and these professional lobbyists, they know how to word stuff to really get done what they want to get done and not necessarily what the president wants. The president is so busy in his daily schedule, he doesn't have time to read all the materials, to read the bills and go into in depth on all the issues of all the decisions that he is making. He has to trust his staff. He has to trust the recommendations that come from them. And when Trump said, I didn't know who it was that I could trust, I didn't really know how the system operated that much. He said it took me close to 3 years to truly learn how the system operates and who it is I can truly trust. But he said, this time I know. I know who I want in the right places. I know who I can trust, and I will know how to get stuff done. That's the positive thing. If we want to see what is called a cleansing process and a cleanup of the swamp, that's what it takes to get stuff done. I remember was when I was in our state legislature, and I was a state house member and a state senator. It took me 2 years to really learn how the system really worked and operated behind the scenes, and what the staff was, who the staff that I could trust in the process. It took me 2 years to learn that stuff. It was 2 to 3 years before I was really comfortable in totally making my own decisions and not dependent upon staff telling me what I could and could not do, or what I could and could not trust. That's how the system operates. Now, but we get all caught up in a lot of drama over who's going to be the president, what are they going to be. And what I call the quantum world, the influencers of this world that we live in, that's beyond what is called the human world, what I call the non-physical ET influencers, they want us caught up in the drama. They want all kinds of drama going on in our lives. Why? Because they understand that we as humans live in a world where everything is a vibration and a frequency. And our thoughts put out vibrations and frequencies that impact our lives. The benevolent people, those that are on our side, those that are supporting us, and Jesus talks about this in his book, his autobiography book. He said, the prime objective for you as a human being incarnating here into this physical world is to keep yourself operating at a high as a frequency as possible. You want all your thoughts to be high frequency thoughts. You want your emotions to be high frequency emotions, because when you operate in the principles of the law of attraction, the energy you put out is the energy that comes back to you. So if you operate in a high frequency world of love, compassion, etc., and stuff like that, you're going to experience that type of a world in your own personal life, and that's a life that we all want. If we're operating in low frequency thoughts, a lot of low frequency drama, then that's what we attract back into our life. And we have a tendency to take the political system and put it and have thoughts of it of a low frequency. We probably judge our politicians more than anybody else. We say that they're all corrupt, that they're all blackmailed, they're all in the game with each other, and we make huge judgments around our president and the controllers of our political system. Well, by virtue of putting out those low frequency thoughts, then you're going to get low frequency experiences. Here's what I've learned. Yes, I had my personal choice about who was going to be the president. But when I wake up tomorrow morning, whoever won that election yesterday has absolutely no impact on how I live and experience my life unless I let them in my thoughts. If I let them impact my thoughts, then what they do will impact my life. When we come to January 21st, after President Trump's inauguration, whatever he does from that day onward has no impact on how I live my life, keeping myself as a high frequency, loving, compassionate person, unless I let him impact me. And that is why I always use this term. When the drama of the world is going on around us, our jobs is to be observers of the drama, not participants in the drama. We just let it be. We let the world be what it's going to be, and we don't involve ourselves in its drama. I remember, it's been about 10 years ago now, when I went to Hong Kong for the first time and visited with the Dragon families, and they told me about all this gold that they had and the history of what it was. And what they said was, we as the Dragon family have had this extensive amount of gold and wealth, but we don't involve ourselves in the world or global politics. We let politics be itself what it's going to be. Politicians come and go. Countries come and go. World leaders come and go, we're still here, and we still have all of this gold. We let the world carry itself out as it's going to carry itself out, and we don't involve ourselves in it. That's how we should be living our lives. Presidents are going to come and go. Politicians are going to come and go. Drama issues are going to come and go. And our jobs is just to be the observers and not the participants of what goes on, not only in the conventional world, but also what goes on in the shadow world. Now, all of us here that are involved in this currency exchange, we're going to be participants in the shadow world. There's not a lot of people out there that know what's going on here. How many people are you going out there telling them, guess where I'm putting some money and how I'm going to become a multimillionaire? They would think that you're absolutely crazy. And I always remember, I says, when folks come to my workshops, I say, how many of you here told people what you were coming to? They all kind of laughed, and I said, yeah, because those of us involved in this currency exchange, we're kind of the black sheep. We're the odd ones. But we've been able to have an awakening process for us. We've been awakened to what's going on. We're understanding what's going on, and we are getting to be some of the trailblazers that are going to be bringing some healthy change to our world. We're going to be able to start, because see, as I said, the world is run and controlled by the black hats in the shadow world, and they run the finances, the money systems of this world. And our job by participating in this currency exchange is to start neutering their power so the power truly comes back to us, the people. One of the things I observed in the elections last night from what some of the commentators were saying was how the traditional prospects of both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party had flipped. When you go back 20, 30, 40, 60 years, the Republicans were known as the party of the elite, the money party, the people with the power, the people with the money, the businesses and the corporations. They were predominantly within the Republicans, and the Democrats were basically the ones that were supporting and made up of the everyday common folks. And I remember one of the commentators last night are saying, we have now witnessed a complete shift and change of who really is behind the political parties in our country. Because the Democrats have now become the party with the elite, with the money, with the powerful, with the strong new high-tech business multi-billionaires behind them. The Democrats have become the party of the elite, and it's the Republicans that have become the party of the everyday common folks. And a lot of the commentators were saying last night that the reason that Trump won was because the everyday common folks were waking up to what was taking place in this world, and they weren't allowing the powerful elite in the Democrat Party and the powerful elite of the money people and the powerful elite of the mainstream media to influence their vote. And that was one of the main reasons why they voted for Trump. Does Trump have his problems? Oh, yes, he does. He says some dumb and stupid stuff and does a lot of crazy stuff. But he knows how to get stuff done. And he knows how to basically appeal to the common folks. And they said he did a couple of things that really showed that he was in touch with the common folks. Because when President Biden basically called the supporters of the Republicans a bunch of garbage, he goes out and puts on a vest in a garbage truck and takes pictures of him being in a garbage truck. And when they were always saying that Kamala Harris was supposed to be a person of the common people, and she worked at McDonald's when she was young, and they couldn't find anything to support that, he goes and works at a McDonald's, passing out French fries at a McDonald's window. You see, it told the people he was in touch, and he understood where they were at the common level. So, okay, let me look at my notes. When it comes down to what's happening in the currency exchange, again, we're waiting. And the word that we are getting from our sources, we may see some activity possibly starting around the end of the year, which is in about another month and a half. Now, that's all that I know. Okay? I don't know anything else, and they don't always keep me totally informed of what's going on because I'm the one that's allowed to talk about this on my radio program and in my workshops, and they don't want to give me too much information because I might end up saying something accidentally that I shouldn't say. But all I know is that we're being told there's a high probability we may see some movement, the process starting around the end of the year. And yes, there's still room. If you want to come in more in the currency exchange, you can purchase more of the dong that is there, okay? Okay, I think that's pretty much all the stuff that I wanted to share tonight. I've been going for about a half hour here, and I'll do this now. Yes, Blog Talk Radio is working tonight. So if you got any questions or any comments that you would like to make, you can go ahead and talk in through the Blog Talk program, or you can just call in on your phone. You don't have to be on that program. And that number is 515-605-9356. Again, 515-605-9356. And I've already got two people that have raised their hand that they would like to come on the air. So we're going to go first to area code 918. I'm bringing you up. So area code 918, you're on the air. What can I help you with?
Yeah, this is Ralph from Tulsa. You talk about purchasing more dong. Do we have to buy it in 5 million increments, or can you buy like 10 or 15 or 20 at a time?
Well, what I need you to do, my link is set up for you to pay in $5 increments. Now, you can do, 3, 4, or 5 at a time if you want to, but you just need to make 3, 4, or 5 payments. That's all.
Okay, that's how you want to do, okay?
Yeah.
Just curious.
It's just the link on the payment is set up for 5 million, and you can do those in multiples of that if you want to and just make more payments.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Okay. Alrighty. Thanks. Okay. All right. So we're done there, and okay. Now we're going to area code 385. Area code 385. You're on the air. What can I help you with?
Yeah, hi Dave. Just a couple quick questions. Back in January, you had a chance to sell some bonds, and I thought I heard you say that when this currency exchange actually came about, that the bonds would be the first to pay out.
Yes.
Is that still?
Well, when I put those bonds up for sale, I had some misinformation. I thought those were going to be paid fairly quickly, and I misunderstood what they told me. Okay, but when the funds are released from the Texas Processing Office, we pay the bonds first. The bonds will get paid first. See, I'm going to get a really large sum of money, and it's going to, include bonds and currencies and stuff like that. But we pay bonds first. Bonds always have the priority. So.
Do you know what will determine their value?
We don't know yet. That's the one thing they didn't tell us, and I don't understand why. We don't know the bonds, but I do know that they are scheduled to pay out at least at $1 million each.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. That's all we wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at the comments there on my Facebook page, and Susan, you're saying, am I going to have a conference in the Southeast? Yes. Look at my newsletter. I'm going to be going to Orlando in about 4.5 weeks. Now, a week from Saturday, I'm going to be in Baltimore, and I still have plenty of seats for the workshop there. And then 3 weeks after that, I'm going to be in Orlando, okay? And then I take a break over the holiday season for about 6 weeks because, once you get beyond the first week in December, people are too busy with getting ready for Christmas and the holidays. And then the New Year rolls around, and usually people don't start wanting to show up until around the 3rd week in January. So after Orlando, the first week in December, we're then probably looking at the 3rd week in January when I'll do the next workshop. And I'm not certain yet where that is going to be because I'm waiting for some more information. But that's basically what we have. Okay? Now, any more folks wanting to make some phone calls? Any more folks wanting to make some phone calls? I still got some more room. Again, the number is 515-605-9356. Again, 515-605-9356. Okay? And I don't see a lot of folks looking at wanting to call in. I'll give maybe just a little bit more time here, about another 10 to 15 seconds. And if I don't see anybody raising their hand on Blog Talk Radio that they want to call in, then I think we'd be ready to call it a night. So I hope this has been a helpful information tonight, and that you can really understand what really goes on in the political process in our country, and how important it is to just let it be and don't get involved in the drama around that. Okay, so I think we're ready to call it an evening here tonight. It's our November 6th program. Hopefully I'll be back again next week, and unless something comes up that I'm not familiar with. And again, though, a week from Saturday, we got lots of room still for the Baltimore workshop, and we would love to see you there. And as I've always said, when it comes time to pay out, I start with the most recent workshop, and I'll work back from there, probably going back about a year. And then from there, we'll deal with that when we get there, about how we'll process that, okay? All right. So, thank you very much for joining us tonight, folks, and we will basically see you hopefully next week. Okay, bye-bye.